Hello board game brothers and sisters, and welcome to another episode where I'll be letting you know of Kickstarters launching this week. If you're new here, welcome to the channel, and we do these every week, and I try to cover all the upcoming board games coming to Kickstarter. I also do the occasional painting and deep dive video on individual campaigns. And if you want to see campaigns further into the future, definitely check out our Discord. I'll leave a link to that in the description below, and we have all the upcoming Kickstarters grouped into different categories. We also track things like links to late pledges and tabletop simulator versions of the games. There's also a ton of giveaways both here on the channel and on the Discord, so make sure to stay tuned for those. And with that said, let's check out the Kickstarters. And the first couple campaigns we have here are launching on May 1st, and the first one is called Sensu, and this is not actually a board game, but instead it's a deck of cards, and it features artwork with a Japanese theme with each suit featuring a different season. But what makes this deck of cards unique is that when you fan out the cards, it actually forms an image, and the term Sensu actually refers to one of those paper Japanese fans that when you open up also show an image. And I also thought it was interesting that they're offering a cup version of the cards. This image here is actually the deck of cards with the non-essential parts of the card cut out. As part of the campaign, there'll also be a pledge level that comes with this fancy box. And next we have a game that I actually covered a couple weeks ago, but I guess it's actually launching this week, and this is called Glory 2nd Edition. And this is an RPG style board game where players are going to have a dry erase character sheet. And you're going to be traveling across an old map, and players will be picking up different quests, buying goods, gathering secret information, and competing to win 20 points of glory by helping the town, slaying monsters, and completing various quests. This is an entry-level game designed for gamers and non-gamers new to the hobby. This means that it'll be easier to learn, but it'll introduce new gamers into mechanisms that you won't find in Monopoly. And the next few games are launching on May 3rd, and the first one we have is called Deal or Death, and this is a party game and social deduction game with a focus on negotiation. The game plays over 4 phases where players will be drawing roll cards and then negotiating with each other in order to broker deals. Any player with an executive role will want to gain the support of the other players, and they win if they can make the most deals with the other players. Players with the shareholder role can also win the game, and they do so by investing the most capital into the winning executive. There's other roles in the game known as infiltrators, and they're going to have their own special win conditions and cause the other players to fail. And the next campaign we have is called Skyline Express, and this is a game where players are taking on the roles of aspiring managers for the first aerial train. To gain the role, you must have the most victory points at the end of 3 rounds. Players will gain points by efficiently placing passengers from the waiting area into the appropriate carriages according to their individual needs and preferences. There's also 6 different passenger types, and this is indicated by their colors, and pairing passengers according to their types adds another layer for maximizing your points. You can also gain bonus points for servicing passengers during the trip. The game uses mechanisms like pattern building, set collection, tile placement, and auction selection, but if you're more interested in a roll and write version of the game, the campaign will be offering that as well. And the next few campaigns are launching on May 4th, and the first one we have is Gutterfall Bounties, and this plays 2 to 6 players and takes about 60 to 120 minutes to play. And in this game, players are bounty hunters deep in an underground cyberpunk city of futuristic technology and ancient magic. The goal of this game is to earn your freedom by locating and defeating one of the 6 bosses before the other players. To do this, players will travel the many subterranean districts to locate clues of their target's locations, either by purchasing them or through wiretapping and stealing them from other players. Players will also fight other smaller bounty targets as well as each other to earn extra cash throughout the game. And aside from clues, players can also purchase armor, weapons, and other upgrades in order to build their deck and help them reach their goal. The first player to locate and defeat the final boss wins the game. And next we have a campaign for the Dark Rituals soundtrack, but this will also provide an opportunity for you to purchase the Kickstarter version of this game. I don't believe this is a reprint, so the campaign may be limited to the remaining stock. So if you want to secure your copy, you may want to click the Notify Me on Launch button, and I'll have links to all these campaign pre-launch pages in the description below. And Dark Rituals is an asymmetric 1 versus many miniatures board game, where a single player will control evil witches using their summoning power in order to materialize different monsters and demons into the world in an attempt to take over the land. The other players will act as a band of heroes defending their land and villagers from these attacks and pushing the evil back to where it came. Gameplay is organized around story-driven scenarios with unique objectives. These scenarios can be linked into a longer campaign or played individually as the players see fit. Players will each be managing their pool of stamina in order to complete different actions. Players can also perform reactions based on certain event triggers in the game. As the game progresses, players will also be able to advance their skills and improve their characters. This game has some really nice reviews with a rating of a 7.9, and if you filter down to the comments, there are a lot of positive reactions here praising the gameplay. And there are very few negative comments, and most of the ones I saw were all related to fulfillment and delays during the campaign, which is completely unrelated to the actual gameplay. This game also has a ton of awesome miniatures that I know we all love, so if you're looking to get into a miniatures board game, I think this is one that you can back with confidence. Also on the 4th, we have Chai Tea for Two, and this plays 2 players and takes about 3 to 45 minutes to play. And this is a standalone game in the Chai series that plays very different than its predecessor. Tea for Two takes you out of the tea shop, where players will be using dice workers to build their fields and navigate their tea's production through 5 unique action boards to eventually ship all over the world. At the start of the game, players can decide the game length by choosing how many completed contracts are required to trigger the game end. Each player is going to have their own unique player power, and each round triggers a new season and a chance to specialize in new teas that thrive during that season. Each player also receives tea tokens based on the round harvest tiles that were randomly assigned during setup as this helper market moves across the tiles each round. Workers can be assigned to the harvest board to collect a tea token of their choice. Players can also assign workers to the market in order to purchase different plantation cards, and these cards can be put on the plantation board, creating a tableau and allowing for the player to gain some unique abilities. A player can also assign workers to the palace board in order to perform various actions that will modify the play area. Or players can assign workers in order to reserve different ship cards at the harbor for use later in the game. And then finally, players can assign workers to the production board, which allows for tea token movement throughout their plantation player board. Each of these actions has different rules and behaviors depending on the dice values of the workers placed. Victory points are gained by completing contracts, but also by completing tea crates, collecting blooming teas, and field tableau bonuses. And I'm really impressed with the success that these designers have achieved. Both Connie and Dan have taken on a lot starting this company from the ground up. And together they achieved a level of quality and community involvement that many larger companies struggle to achieve. And for that reason, I'm really happy to say that this one's my pick of the week. The original Chai game did incredible on Kickstarter, and although many do say that the game is overproduced, I would disagree with that. A game does not need to be super massive, complex, or heavy in order to warrant good components. And games are just like a cup of tea. It's about enjoying the experience that it is. And everything involved in that moment is going to contribute to that experience. And Chai is a solid game, and the nice thing about being both the designer and the publisher, which is the case here, is that you can create your game exactly how you intend it, and you're not going to be constrained to the restrictions that publishers often put on their game designs. Of course, with added production, there's also added cost, and accessibility is important, and you don't want to see people missing out on the experience because of a price tag, which is why I'm even more impressed that they offer their games both in print and play and Tabletopia forms. And they even provide the rulebook before the campaign even starts. And I'm a huge fan of transparency and making your game accessible. And Tea for Two looks like it's going to be another solid game that anyone can enjoy. And I gotta say, I'm really impressed with that. It's not easy to design and develop a game, and it's even tougher to turn that into a business. So congrats to both of you and your team for all that you accomplished. And thanks for all the hard work, passion, and attention to detail that you put towards creating something that your audience will enjoy. For anyone that's interested in this Kickstarter, you can sign up on their website to get notified of launch, and I'll leave that link in the description below. And the next campaign is also launching on the 4th, and this is called Aldabas, Doors of Cartagena, and this plays 2 to 4 players and takes about 30 to 45 minutes to play. And Aldabas is a puzzly tableau builder card game based on Colombian culture. In this game, players are going to be competing to gain wealth and fill their neighborhood with the most influential citizens. On a player's turn, they can take 2 out of 3 actions. They can either take 2 coins from the supply, or they can buy a door card from the market. As doors are bought, they slide down the market row, becoming cheaper as they progress and eventually becoming free. The third action is to place a card into your 4x3 tableau following the placement rules. When you place a card, you activate its placement ability, which grants you different bonuses depending on the card that you're playing and the cards are already in your tableau. Players will also be gaining points at game end based on the sets that they collected, as well as the amount of coins that they have in their possession. The player with the most points at the end of the game wins. And the next campaign we have is called Ice, and this plays 1 to 5 players and takes about 60 to 120 minutes to play. And this one's our Discord pick of the week. And in this game, players are archaeologists exploring tiles of an ancient civilization for wealth and reputation. This game features a really unique mechanism, as the game board is actually made up of 5 layers of tiles. Players are going to be using their workers to excavate these tiles to earn special abilities. The first layer represents the ice sheet, and the tiles gained here can be played as special actions throughout the game. The second, third, and fourth 4th layers represent the surface, intermediate, and deep artifact levels, which offer game-changing rules to the player that collect these tiles. The last level is where players are going to be digging up different artifacts for reputation points at the end of the game. Players will each have their own colored archaeologists to control, but there will also be these smaller white archaeologists that players can freely claim from each other during their turn. On a player's turn, they get 5 action points to spend. You can use these action points to build camps, or you can use those action points to place archaeologists from the reserve onto your camps, or you can use a point to move your meeple to an adjacent tile, or you can excavate a tile for 3 action points, but this cost is lowered by 1 for each meeple that you have on it. 1 action point may also be saved for use on your following turn. As tiles are excavated, other tiles will collapse and be removed from the game if they're ever only adjacent to one other tile. Tiles are all locked within an outer frame, which makes picking up the tiles quite easy without shifting around other tiles on the board. And there is a small gap between the different tiles so that picking up that first tile on a given layer is not too difficult. I don't really need to say that the artwork on this one looks amazing, and the mechanisms really seem to mesh with the theme very well. This is one I'm really excited about, and it's one that I'm definitely going to be looking into once it launches. If you feel the same way, you can go ahead and click the Notify Me on the campaign pre-launch page. Also on the 4th, we have the Great Race 2, and this plays 2 to 4 players and takes about 60 minutes to play. And this is a continuation of the campaign launched back in 2020 for the Great Race, but this is a standalone version of the game. Players will be racing their vehicles across a continent using scouts, mechanics, and escorts in order to discover new paths, repair their vehicles, and guarantee safe travel over hazardous terrain. This game will feel more like an expedition rather than a race, as it will have players using resource management, optimizing, and planning to take the lead. Players will be drafting cards each turn that help gain coins, oil, or engine improvements, and then they'll be placing their workers behind their screen to perform other actions like scouting, repairing, gaining money, or performing other actions like moving your vehicle across the board. The game offers a few different maps, and this campaign will be adding to the available content. And next we have a game called Battles for a Dungeon, and this is only offered in French, and unfortunately I don't speak French, so the best I could figure out is that this is a game where players are battling for control over a dungeon. On a player's turn, they can perform the actions that they want to perform from a set of actions, but in a specific order. First, they take 1 gold if they're in control of the dungeon, then they draw 1 season card and 1 power card. Players will then move their merchants, thieves, and take their gold, construct buildings and recruit units, and attack other opponents. And I believe attacking your opponents is the main way that you gain control over the dungeon. Players can then move their units to adjacent areas not controlled by another opponent, and then gameplay moves on to the next player. And next we have Vivid Memories from Floodgate Games, and this plays 2 to 4 players and plays in about 30 to 45 minutes. And Vivid Memories is a drafting game of building a neural network of connected memories. During the game, players take turns collecting memory tiles, which represent childhood memories. Players can then choose to remember these memories as they happened in order to gain new abilities, or players can flip the tile to remember the memory as it was imagined, giving the players new opportunities to score throughout the game. Players will be drawing tokens from a bag and placing these tokens in certain arrangements on their player board in order to fulfill the scoring opportunities that they have. Scoring memories also gives you repeated benefits as you get to score the points again at the start of each following round. Players will also be attempting to score points by connecting colors and icons across the edge of the board, and you're going to score points based on the number and length of the continuous connections that you can make. This game offers a nice set of components without getting too overwhelming, and the artwork looks amazing, and it's a lot of fun to see the whimsical, imaginative side of each of the memory tiles. Links in the description below to check this one out. And don't forget that you can also use the coupon code SHELFCLUTTER to get a really nice 15% discount off of any games over at Kickstartergames.com, which is our sponsor for this video. I do all this coverage for free, so it's really nice to have a sponsor that allows me to cover all these games without having certain bias to any individual publishers. And Kickstartergames.com offers a wide selection of games, so if there's a game that you're planning to buy, definitely check out their website, use that coupon code, and save yourself a ton of money. They also do a random giveaway every month, and all you have to do to enter into those is sign up to their newsletter. So if you like free games, definitely check that out. And next we have Dungeons & Lasers 3, and this is not a board game, but it's a set of modular gaming architecture full on buildings and miniatures. The campaign's going to offer some really cool rooms and buildings that can be pieced together to create a dungeon however you like. There's also going to be a ton of options for different townsfolk miniatures as well as different classes. And the pledges do come with a 5e campaign that's called the Adventurer's Trail. And if you like dragons, there's also a ton of really awesome sculpts sized appropriately to the buildings and miniatures that you saw before. And next we have CATastrophe, a game of 9 lives, and this is a party game for 2 to 6 players that takes about 30 to 45 minutes to play. And this is a game where your goal is to survive. Players are going to be faced with chaos and mayhem, and the last cat standing wins. The game features card drafting, dice rolling, hand management, player elimination, and take that. And players will be playing cards and minigames where everything is out to kill you. All the while, the Grim Reaper villain is going to be planning your demise. This looks like it might have a little bit more meat to it than your typical Take That card game, so if that's something you're interested in, definitely check this one out. And next on May 4th, we have Kiwi Chow, and this plays 1 to 5 players and takes about 30 to 90 minutes to play. And Kiwi Chow is an area control game played over 4 seasons, with each season having a different objective. Each season has 3 rounds, and you can either build, move, or feed depending on the cards in your hand and the strategy that you want to adopt. The build action gains you benefits for your Kiwi flock both immediately and at the beginning of each season. When you perform the feed action, your Kiwi will grow and can eventually push other Kiwi out of the way or even off the board. This is something you'll have to do carefully because overfeeding your Kiwi can cause them to explode. The move action can also be used strategically to position your Kiwis in a way to outnumber your opponents in a given area or to push your opponent's Kiwis out of the way. At the end of each season, players will be placing domain markers to mark the territory that they've claimed, and domain markers equal victory points at the end of the game. And the game also features some funny looking art and miniatures that I very much appreciate. And this artwork comes from the Creature Kingdom universe, which is something I'm not familiar with, but if you are familiar with it, you'll probably see the resemblance in this game. And now on May 5th, we have Travelers of Tryphosa, and this plays 2 to 6 players and takes about 60 to 180 minutes to play. And this is a game where players are characters with unique strengths and abilities split into different questing parties. Each turn, you're going to travel with your party, completing quest cards and purchasing items and abilities. The event dice are then rolled to trigger a random encounter, and you may meet creatures, hostile or friendly, find new items or gold, or discover a new quest. After each party takes their turn, you're going to move a time marker along the timeline, triggering some global events. During the final round, a battle royale is triggered that can gain you extra points. And then on May 6th, we have Journey to Ecrya, and this plays 2 to 4 players and takes about 60 to 240 minutes to play. And in this game, players embark on a dangerous journey to a ruined city atop a cursed mountain to defeat a final boss. You'll explore undiscovered locations, fight various beasts, and interact with strange creatures along the way. This game uses a shifting Game Master mechanism where each turn the Game Master is going to change to another player. At the start of a player's turn, the Game Master is going to draw one of the 75 unique encounter cards for the active player to encounter. The Game Master can then roleplay and embellish the encounter as they please, adding more variation to the game. Each of these cards is going to offer the active player 2 options to react to, and the result will depend on their equipment, their hero stats, and the outcome of their dice rolls. Losing encounters can cost health, and if all health is lost, you move back to the previous camp. When the player reaches the top of the mountain, they'll have an opportunity to fight the final boss, and if they're not strong enough to defeat the boss, then the next player who gets there gets the chance. And the first player to successfully defeat the boss wins the game. And that's it for campaigns this week, but don't leave yet because we got a giveaway for you. And this is for a pledge for Cellulose, a plant cell biology game. And this is a game where players are going to be put into a plant cell where they're going to be fighting for limited resources in order to undergo photosynthesis, produce carbohydrates, and build the cell wall. Players will be doing all this to score points, and each round represents 1 day played over 3 phases. During the morning phase, players will collect an income from their roots and branches and sell component cards. During the daytime phase, players compete over limited action spaces on the shared game board. And then at the night phase, players who contributed the most water to the cell gains the reward, and the cell wall is extended. The game ends when the cell wall is completed and the player with the most points wins the game. And this giveaway is going to be for the Cellulose Collector's Edition pledge, which comes with the Collector's Edition version of the game with all upgraded components and stretch goals. And to enter this giveaway, just leave a comment down below with the hashtag science. And I want to know what your favorite school course was. For me, I'd definitely say my statistics courses because it's really interesting and it actually changed the way I think. And it's a really useful skill to have for game design. And that's all I have for you this week. Until next time, keep that shelf cluttered and the table full.